Hello and welcome to Hard Way Learning, where we look stupid so you don't have to. Today we are doing 2 cam seals, crank seal, timing belt, water pump, and valve cover gasket. Car has around 105,000 miles. I think the previous owner did a timing belt water pump change at around 60,000. It's due around every 60,000, but we're taking this on a long road trip, so we want to make sure everything is perfect on the car before we take off. We just drained the coolant out. Now we are going to start disassembling. We're going to pull the radiator out just to give us a little extra room because I've got this aftermarket aluminum CSF radiator and that pushes the fans pretty close to all of those accessory belts. So radiator hose is out. Might have to take the intake tube off, but let's just get after it.
It's not gonna fit under there. That's what I was originally.
The radiator port bolts are 12 millimeters. The radiator fan's disconnected. Dehydrated.
That's fun.
Alright, so once you get the AC lines off the bottom of the radiator, you get your lower radiator hose disconnected, you get your intake tubing. It's like stress fracturing this intake tube by pushing it so hard over there. That should clear now though, right?
There's a clamp down here.
Should we just take that out? It's probably an 8.
It looks like you're gonna need a long or a deep wall.
Okay, we gotta get our cold side boost pipe out of the way. Lower AC line disconnected from the fan shroud. Lower radiator hose pulled, upper radiator hose pulled. And this should be nearly freedom.
I want to disconnect that first, huh?
Yep, yeah, I think so. I think that's what we want to do. Once you got your intercooler off, golly.
That wasn't so hard, was it?
Alright, now we got plenty of room to get at our accessory belts, radiator delete. Now we gotta get our valve cover off. Here, we're gonna take our coil packs out. Usually you would have an ignition coil pack in the back that you would have to remove, but I recently converted this to Volkswagen coil pack, so all I had to do is disconnect my harness back here and I'll pull all these out. Oh. Talking about getting a bracket to hold those in place, I don't think they're going anywhere. Accessory belt off. Probably a good time to replace these, although I replaced them not too long ago. A lot of satisfaction. The lock nut off the alternator loose. It's 12 millimeter here. Then we can get the tensioner loose. Alright, so now that we have our belts out of the way, I disconnected this is our crank angle sensor here. Disconnected the alternator here just to get this harness out of the way of the front of the engine. So now we're gonna take the valve cover off. And you wanna be careful when you're taking your valve cover off because it can crack if you relieve the pressure unevenly. I don't know, maybe it's a wives' tale, but I'm just gonna make sure I go around and kind of loosen, just get them started, and then you can remove them all. So, I don't get why these would be more prone to cracking than anything else, maybe because it's like a cast aluminum. Comment below, why do you think valve covers are prone to crack? BJ, I'm looking at you. And one final piece of the pie. Stuck again. Okay.
You want to kind of make sure you lift it up so no.
Our kit will come with a replacement seal for all this. How's she look? Wow, look at that. Now we're gonna take these 10 mils off for the cam cover. If it works, someone's gonna leave a comment and be like, "Oh my God, you just damaged your fluid damper. Oh my God."
Check out the other videos for all the other things we've damaged.
There's one right there. These are all like different lengths too. I don't know what part number that is. It looks like I want a new one.
Yeah, I would say so.
God, these are all different lengths.
That goes all the way down under your main.
So maybe we gotta get that guy off now? Taking our main crank pulley off before we take the crank gear off. And then we can also get this cover out of here. Oh, we got more of this cover to take off. And that looks messed up too.
Sure looks dirty down there.
Doesn't it look like it was rubbing the whole time?
Yeah.
Seems kind of weird.
Probably not ideal.
So now I guess we're supposed to take the spark plug out and see where top dead center is. Even though I feel like this should tell me where top dead center, I guess maybe that'll tell you for sure where top dead center is. Spark plug pull tool. There's a lot of oil in there. Good thing we got a new one.
Bum, 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 bum.
It's like I can hear the timing belt stretch, yeah. All right, so my timing belt skipped when I tried to loosen the crank. So I'm gonna have to make sure these are aligned with these marks, but we'll worry about that later. I had to impact my main crank bolt off, so that's now loose. I think I can loosen my tensioners now, which looks like 12 millimeters. So now we're going to remove this tensioner spring, if I can. We can take the pulleys off now. Your timing belt kit should come with a new tensioner spring. Get the main crank bolt out. Throw it on the ground. Alright, so what I ended up doing was sneaking the pry bar just behind the main gear or whatever. And now this thing comes off the boss. We can slide our woodruff key out and slide our main pulley out. Set that pulley aside for the upper timing belt covers. Well, first we gotta get cam gears off. Some more 14 millimeter bolts will hold our cam in place or not. Okay. Alright, now we can take our upper cam cover off, which is a bunch of 10 millimeters. Man, everything is just really tight on this thing. We're gonna remove that crank seal. Just gonna use a pick. Try not to gouge any of your... Alright, old seal out, new seal in, and I got this crank seal tool from Miata. That should help us get the seal on at the right depth. Now we can get our cam seals off. You can take the cam caps off in order to get those off a little easier. Alright, your cam caps are marked with an E and an I for intake exhaust. Pull these seals off. Oh, those are dry as a bone. Are they made hard? There we go. Let's get those started. Get our caps back on. Our caps are 11 to 14 newton meters, so it's into aluminum, pretty low torque spec. Just gonna slowly snug them up evenly, and then we have cam seal install tool. Thanks to Flying Miata for getting all of our seals installed at the appropriate depth. Now we can take our water pump out, which bunch of 12s. Who done it? Then there's two 12s on this water neck here and one underneath. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 to get the water pump out. There'll be a little O-ring on that neck that we'll remove afterwards. A quick recap. There was two 12mm bolts on the water pump here, and then there was a 14 for the alternator bracket here, and then I had to take the water neck off, and the new water pump kit will actually come with a new O-ring seal for that, new gasket for your water pump, new gasket for this right here, and then also an O-ring for this hard line where it connects back here. So we'll pull that apart and put the new O-ring in there. So here's where that outlet of the water is, and then there'll be a new O-ring that goes right here. So we'll pop that off with a hook and replace that. Alright, before we get too far here, we want to get our pulleys back in, which goes something like, and then we're going to put our spring back in. I guess the timing belt kit doesn't come with a spring because it's not working at all. It's just setting the tension once, and then it's not moving at all because you lock it in with the bolt. So they don't wear out, so you don't need to replace them. But to get the belt on, we're going to push the tensioner as far out as we can. Far out, dude. Lock it in the loose position. Clock our piston. Cylinder 1, 2. Top dead centre. somewhere around there. Make sure our cam is lined up, which it looks like it is. Pull this as taut as we can. And then make sure this tensioner is all the way loose. And tighten it. Alright, so I don't think we need these in place anymore. The cam is lined up with the timing mark. Pull it as tight as we can there. Man. Alright, I finally got this on. The trick seemed to be just getting it partially on the tensioner pulleys and then partially on the cam gears, and then you can slide it all the way on. So now we need to get our piston at top dead center. So I'm going to rotate this counterclockwise a touch. So that's top dead center. Now we're going to look at our exhaust gear, and it looks like we hit it right on the money, I think. See, this is lined up with this dash, so that looks good. Geez, and the exhaust looks almost good. Maybe it needs to go a tooth that way. 19 teeth between them. Huh, we might have just nailed it. Alright, so we have 19 teeth between the marks. Now I'm going to loosen the tensioner bolt. It was already loose. I'm going to put our tensioner spring on. We're going to put the car back in neutral. We still have our tensioner loose, and we'll crank the motor. Through a few cycles to get that tension set. Probably want to take the spark plugs out. Alright, we are at top dead center again. We're going to check our timing. Looks like it's still on. We're going to count 19 teeth between the hash marks. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. And now we can torque our pulleys to 30 foot-pounds. Put the car back in gear and torque our crank. But first, we want to take that off and put some 242 blue Loctite on. Now we're just putting our covers back on. Make sure to replace your valve cover gasket. Pulleys. You can't really tighten until you have your accessory belts on. So we will just worry about getting those finger tight for now. All right. Thank you, thank you. Accessory belt on. Before I was so rudely interrupted by my SD card, I put the Right Stuff 1 minute gasket maker on the caps, and then also the cam angle sensor And then we should be ready to reinstall the valve cover. I already swapped out the gasket. It goes around the spark plugs and then the outer part of the valve cover. So now, should be able to flip this baddie upside down. Wrap around like that. Now you are supposed to tighten this down in sort of a cross pattern, so we will follow the rules on that. You do not want to crack your valve cover. That would be a very sad day. So we'll slowly snug them all down together. I'm gonna go 50 inch-pounds on the valve cover. Really going slow on each bolt. It seems as if just as soon as one gets snug, you jump to the next one and that one feels loose. So there's a lot of give in the seal. As always, thanks for watching. You'll have to put your radiator back in, fill the car with water. I'm gonna do spark plugs. I've got a different turbo I'm putting in here. But as always,